live. Welcome, chat. Welcome to the show. Hopefully, I will be able to explain to you guys what is transpiring in France right now. If you do not know, my main artist for the video game is from France, and he doesn't deserve any of this shit. He's a very nice individual, lives in a small room, barely has enough desk space in order to set up a laptop. So, hearing him telling me that his neighborhood is on fire and that the firefighters can't get there in time, it's not nice. It's not that they can't get there in time. My apologies. Is that they're not allowed to get there. So it is upsetting, but well, what can you do in this situation? So it is live. Yes, there is no AI, and it's something concerning that is happening right now in Europe. The Polish Prime Minister, one of the Polish ministers, not the Prime Minister, had a job at France by showing images from what's happening in France right now versus what's happening in Poland. I cannot show these on YouTube because it's interesting how, there is a war on noticing. Like, you're not allowed to notice certain aspects, but it is what it is. And what's happening right now in France, it's unjustifiable. People are looting stores, setting fire to buildings and other stuff like that. We're going to go into why it's happening. We're going to talk about why it's not being stopped, and also what other countries are now being affected by this. I do not think that what Sarah is saying is true. Zara is trying to get herself into a terms of service violation. I don't think that the country has fallen. It's but like this is another question. Like, what does it mean for a country to fall? Like, a country falls, I guess, like when there is no more government, right? So right now the French government is very safe. I do not think that we're going to even witness a change of power over this. What does it mean, like the country has fallen? This is something that I get on the internet a lot. Like, this country has fallen. And even when a country falls, by the way, the world doesn't end. There has been many nations that have fallen and then they rise again. Like, it's just about the political system at the end of the day. Like, life goes on. The question is, like, do you want to live without water, electricity, difficulty in getting food, and having to pay protection money to the local gang? I mean, that's what when a country has fallen looks like. But right now, no. Like, it's exaggerated to say that France has fallen. However, I don't think they have enough prison cells for the number of people that they arrested. It seems that they arrested more than 1,300 people. That's like, what, a small village? It's a meme. The West have fallen. Billions must. Okay, well, yeah, but no, I'm sorry, I didn't get the meme because I spend way too much time arguing with people on the internet, and it's very difficult to tell when they're joking versus when they're not. But no, I do not believe that France has fallen. Macron has called the Prime Minister of Poland a far-right anti-Semite a while back, so the hate is mutual. I don't think necessarily like they hate each other. I think it's like electoral pandering. I mean, Macron knows what the people that vote for him expect him to say, and the Prime Minister of Poland knows what the people that voted for him expect to say. So a lot of these politics are performance, and I tell you this from Eastern Europe, from Romania. Like, there were like two political individuals that were arguing with each other all the time, and it looked like they're about to punch each other on TV. Like, there was very aggressive interaction between these two. And then a news reporter managed to find them that they were playing backgammon together. They were playing with dice in a park. This is how politics work. Like, a lot of it is performance, especially in 2023. Like, most politicians, in fact, if not all of them, have PR teams. They just read what they need to say. Everything that they do is calculated. Very rarely do they manage to speak off the top of their head. We do not have statesmen in modern times. We have PR teams, and we have script writers, and ChatGPT. But the idea that like a politician actually talks from the soul, that's very rare. And when it does happen, they're ostracized immediately. Yes, Gabriel Narta Table, which is very interesting because Bolsonaro, for example, received a court order today that he can't run for elections until 2030, which is very interesting because 2030 is the UN agenda for zero carbon emissions. And if anyone looks into it, there's a lot of control associated with the zero carbon emission. Like, for example, the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, which tells me that they don't expect that anyone they don't like will win after the CBDC is being installed and everyone is going to be tracked. I mean, this has happened in China. There was a protest against the banks, and it's got nothing to do with the government. It was just against the banks. But the government managed to find out who were the leaders that were doing this protest by using their massive surveillance apparatus, and then switched their COVID passes from green to red. So even though they weren't sick, the passport was shown as red. So when they were trying to take the public transportation system, even though they had money, they weren't allowed to go in. And that's how China immediately shut down the banking protest. But yes, I don't think like people will eat the bugs. 2030 is going to be an interesting year. Well, up until then, it's going to be interesting, right? Like the more we get into the future, things are going to get more and more interesting. I don't think they're going to meet the deadline, though. You know, like the 5-year plan bullshit. A lot of people believe that just because some assholes in a room plan something, it actually is successful. I mean, look at all the communist nations and see how much they planned for stuff. And again, like look at the 5-year plan. Look at China's 5-year plan. Like usually trying to organize a World of Warcraft raiding guild is very difficult because people do their own things. People sometimes don't listen. They don't stick with the plan. But now imagine like organizing the world. Now, if you can't organize a World of Warcraft guild of 40 people, imagine how it is organizing like billions of people. Hope you are good, V. But this is important of diversity hires is very clipping to a company, France. When the diversity hires don't respect the company you gratefully hire for, don't expect them to treat you with kindness and love. They hate you. Right, so the reality is that Macron actually did talk about this. And Macron did say that he called it Islamo-leftism. He said that Islamo-leftism is destroying the French Republic, right? And this was like a couple of years ago. Not right? Like imagine, because the thing is, like, people were saying, oh, well, he's afraid of losing his seat, and he is now using far-right talking points. But in reality, the French government genuinely noticed the problem that they were concerned about. And that is like, when you go to America, right? Like, America is my perfect example. America is a country which is very different than any other nation on the world. And that is that, well, it's not really a nation of immigrants, but it's a nation of conquerors, right? So when you have America being created, you have people from France, you have people from Britain, you got Spanish people, you have the American indigenous population. Like, you got all of these different factions, right? And if you look at what's happening in Europe, you get World War I and World War II. Now, because, we live in a different time where you have planes and people can travel a lot easier, and moving mass amounts of people from one place to another is very simple, a lot of people focus on race. But when America was founded, people not only focused on ethnicity, but they also focused on religion. And not just like, I'm not talking Christianity versus Islam here. I'm talking about like Protestant versus Catholic. Like in Britain, these people were at each other's throats during that particular time period, right? So like faith, religion, ethnicity, nationality, like all of these were part of people's identities, and they carried a lot of historical baggage and a lot of grievances, and it was very difficult to get people to cooperate with each other, right? So what does the United States do? Well, they have the Pledge of Allegiance. So the Pledge of Allegiance is just one of the many things, but it carries like a symbol that, it doesn't matter what your roots are. Like, you can be black, you can be white, you can be Asian, you can be from Italy, you can be from Great Britain. Like, none of that matters anymore. Now you're pledging allegiance to America, right? Like, this is your new country now. This is the ideology: one nation, undivided, under God. Under God was added in order to fight against the Marxism invasion, which, by the way, was added after the initial Pledge of Allegiance. But this is why, like, the left looks at the Pledge of Allegiance and they say that it's fascist or something like that. It's not fascist. Like, it is meant to unify people. It's like, you're all... Now, like, you all come from different places, but now you're American. That's the core idea, and they used to do this in Marines. I think it's like there was a movie which highlighted this, and I looked into it, and apparently they actually do say this. Well, at least they used to say this in the Marine Corps. You're not white, you're not black, you're all green Marines. Like, that was the idea. It's like, well, I don't give a shit about your identity anymore. Like, now your identity is Marine. So this is how you actually bring a nation together. In France, you don't have this, right? Like, in France, this is what Macron was worried about, because if you have an ideology which claims that, okay, well, there is such a thing as a deity, right? So there is a God. You believe this unironically. Like, you believe that there is a God, and you also believe that God has a way that countries should be governed. Like, this is the correct way of governing a nation. And if you do not do this, then God will punish you, right? Well, that is incompatible with a secular nation. Like, you cannot have a nation that is like, okay, well, we want to have atheists, and we want to have Christians, and we want to have people of this other faith all living together. You can't have that if one faith literally believes that these other people are upsetting the Lord. And if the Lord is upset, he's going to smite thee, right? Like, you can't have that. Like, someone has to give. Either the religious people that believe that gain power, or the secular nation just cracks down on the religious dissent. Like, you literally can't have both, right? Like, it's not a tolerant... It's not a tolerant ideology. If you genuinely believe that your ideology needs to dominate the nation... That, well, and there is no more conversation. There is no middle ground, right? The camera is ultra slow. Well, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'll get rid of the distraction. Here we go. Now you guys do not have the distraction. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So, my video is glitching. Damn it. Alright, hold on. Yeah, I think it's my internet connection. Not much I can do about it. But anyway, so that's one aspect of it. But then you have another ideology, right? Which is not religious in nature, but it's an ideology that believes that France is inherently racist. That they are a colonial force that needs to be decolonized, and the French people are guilty of a primordial sin. Okay, you can't have patriotism with that ideology. So this is the problem, right? Like, you do not have, like, people agreeing even in the core aspects of what the French project is, in the core aspects of the French Republic. So when you have that, you're going to end up with civil strife. And I do not think that the recent events are what caused it. I think, like, a lot of people were waiting for a reason. This is very similar to the Black Lives Matter protests, but I do not think that the people in power benefit from them, right? Because with BLM, we noticed that in the United States, the Democrats benefited a lot, right? Which is really interesting, because it happened mostly in Democrat-controlled cities. So, in red cities, you did not have those riots, or when they did happen, it wasn't with so much damages. And mostly in red cities, you don't even have police officers being accused of racism or shooting black people and stuff. It's mostly blue cities. It's very interesting. I'm really curious, like, what black people from America would say if you bring up this talking point. They will probably dismiss you, I'm pretty sure, because there is a thing which all human beings have. But the reality is, like, most human beings have a worldview. Let's put it like this, right? And it doesn't matter, like, what that worldview is. It could be Christianity, it could be just a secular ideology, but they do believe that the world is structured in a certain way, right? All of us do. And when you're fundamentally contradicted on your worldview, like someone says that all you believe in is wrong, most people, overwhelmingly, probably myself, we get very defensive with that. You know, you can get even very aggressive. So you're not going to accept the fact that, well, you may be wrong in everything. No, you're going to just attack the person that's pointing it out. So it's not really that logic that doesn't compute with some people. I think, like, all people also have emotions and feelings, because we're not Vulcan. And the emotions and feelings actually matter a lot more than the logic. So you may tell a person, hey, you know, like, this is logical, but if you hurt their ego, they're less likely to listen to you, even if you have a point. So yes, they would say that there is not enough black people in red cities, so they are racist in that way. Is that what they say? I mean, surely there must be red cities that do have black people in them. But anyway, you know, like, looking at America, it is very interesting. I mean, if you have, let's say, a city which is predominantly African American, and they have, like, black police chief, black city council, black mayor, I don't know, black governor, probably not, right? But maybe, I don't know if there is, because I'm not really that well versed when it comes to governors. But it would be interesting if you have, like, a black governor, black city hall, black police chief, you know, and they would still say that there is systemic racism. And it's like, okay, well, at this point, nothing you do ends the systemic racism. Now, like, you created the definition for systemic racism, which allows that no matter what happens, no matter the circumstance, you will find racism. So, at this point, like, how can you even fight that? Because you're basically saying that there is no fighting against it. You are right, I bring this up and they dismiss it. Yeah, it's very difficult to reach a person and try to convince them that their entire worldview is wrong, and it's also the fact that humans are... Oh yeah, like Chicago. Yeah, like Chicago actually. Good point. What's the end game with this level of division in countries? No way is the current ideology sustainable. I don't think there is an end game. So like, what happened in the European Union? Because I know this from inside sources. I don't speak directly to politicians, but due to the nature of my channel that would talk about politics, and I had over 140,000 subscribers, well, I still do, I do manage to talk with people that advise politicians, and they do get to tell me, like, what the people from the European Union were thinking. And what they were thinking a couple of decades ago, right? Because, like, this is another thing. People don't understand that ideologies usually adapt with the times. Like, it's not necessarily like a plan that they have set in motion. But basically what happened is that they looked at the demographics of Europe, and they were very concerned. Because a lot of a lot of politicians promise free shit, and now there's not going to be enough young people in order to pay for the free shit, right? That kind of makes sense if you think about it. So because the demographics were in decline, they said, okay, well, what if we import a lot of people from impoverished nations, and they get to work? Well, you know, someone will pay for our pensions when we're old. Because at the end of the day, that was pretty much it. It's like, who pays for our pension, right? Like, how do we have, like, a nice retirement? So it's like, okay, well, let's bring people from impoverished nations, and they will work for cheap, and then we don't really have to have, like, basically, like, a big younger population. So, you know, like, they import, like, they take advantage of the refugee crisis, which, by the way, was a little bit manufactured in a way, like, the media, you know, like, focusing on that child in Greece, and then, like, pumping up all of the propaganda to open the borders and let as many of them in. Obviously, like, when you're going to tell people, it's like, hey, if you come in, you get, like, welfare, and we're going to give you a place to stay. Like, of course people are going to come, right? So, anyway, right, like, basically, they end up with like, this large number of people that do not have any allegiance to Europe. They do not have any sort of, not necessarily like roots, but their culture is very different. I mean, look, if you're from a country where you get lashed for drinking alcohol, right, and you go to France, where it's one of the countries that's mostly renowned for wine, I mean, you can see that there is a little bit of a friction there. So anyway, they end up, obviously not integrating. I mean, it's very difficult for a person that speaks French to find a job in France during this economy, but let alone like a person that doesn't even speak the language finding a job, right? Cultural issues, all of this friction, especially like you bring people from a theocracy into a nation that's secular. Like, of course, there's going to be frictions, and now they don't know what to do, right? Because like you can't send these people back, because not many of them aren't the ones causing problems, but it's their children. Like right now. Almost overwhelmingly, the people that are rioting in France are youths. Secondly, nations, they do sign contracts, right? So, like, when you seek asylum and they give you citizenship, I mean, that's a binding contract. You can't just go back on it. So anyway, like, there's a lot of legal difficulties. Like a lot of people think, oh my god, like Le Pen is going to win and she's going to deport everyone. No, she's not. Like, she can't, literally, even if she wanted to, and I don't think even she wants to. So now they're stuck basically with the people that they got, and they really don't know what to do. Like, unironically, like a lot of people think that, oh well, there's a plan. It's like, oh, no, they genuinely don't know what to do. And the only thing that they know what to do is to pretend that the problem isn't there and talk about other things. And hopefully, the problem doesn't blow up. So they're trying to manage the situation. That's pretty much how I would describe the European Union right now. It's like, how do we manage it? Now, in the case of Britain, they have police officers. So they tried starting shit in Britain the other night. And within a couple of hours, everything was suppressed. So the riots in London and which spread in a couple of other cities were immediately shut down within a couple of hours. In France, not so much, because they defunded the police. They didn't have the slogan "defund the police," or maybe they did. I don't know. But they didn't spend a lot of money on them. So now the police officers in France are completely understaffed, undertrained. They're not prepared for this. So this is why the riots are going to probably last a lot more than they should. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like the story of the Tower of Babel, right? Like the Tower of Babel is what? Like, even if you don't believe in God and you don't think that the Bible is true and whatnot, which I as an atheist don't. But someone did write the story, right? Like, even if you're an atheist or you're a Muslim or whatever, like, you do believe that someone, like some human, wrote the Bible, right? Like, even if you don't believe there's a divine spark over there, you still look at it and you're like, okay, well, someone did write these things. So, someone that was like thousands of years, that lived thousands of years before us, like 2,000 years before us, probably, right? Like, when was the Bible written? Oh, actually, never mind. This is Old Testament shit, right? So it's older than 2,000 years. But, like, basically, someone was like, okay, well, if people can't communicate with each other, they can't get along. And that is, like, the moral of the Tower of Babel. It's like you have all these people working for a goal, which is to build a tower, and then, God makes them so that they speak different languages, and now they're fighting with each other, so they're not building the tower. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, basically, like, if you think about it, like, when I was a kid, I didn't understand this story, because I was like, okay, well, now if they can't speak with each other, who cares? Like, they could still do sign language, right? Like, they still know how to build a tower. Like, you don't need that much communication in setting the bricks. However, as I grew up, I finally understood the story. It has, like, a different connotation. The connotation is that people who do not have, like, a common language, they do not get along. Like, that is the most important thing. Which is very interesting, because if you look at progressive ideology, they are actively against immigrants learning the English language, which is basically hurting the immigrant. I mean, think about it. if you're in a foreign nation and something bad happens to you, how do you talk with the cops? How do you contact the authority? You don't speak their language. Like, that is a nightmare. But for some reason, the left encourages that behavior. It's like, and I used to remember like watching CNN and they were talking about deportations and stuff. And they would show like this Spanish woman that lived for like 20 or 30 years in the United States. And she needed a translator. And I'm thinking like, how the fuck can you live for like 20 or 30 years in a foreign nation and not learn the language? Like, if I was to go to Japan, I guarantee to you that in 20 years I will speak perfect Japanese. Probably less than that. It's the first thing that I would fucking do. It's like, if I go to Japan, the first thing that I would do is like, all right, let's find a Japanese teacher that speaks English so that I can learn. But like, you gotta be so disinterested. You gotta be so detached to the point where you're not going to another nation because you want to integrate in the culture and you like the politics. No. You're going to another nation because you're viewing it just like as a place where economic transaction happens, right? And this is like the difference between, I guess, like the left and the right. The right views the nation state as their home. So a house means that you have deep roots. You know, you're connected with the other people that live in the house. You know your neighbors, right? You can ask them for help. You help them if they need to. The left views the nation simply as a place where economic transactions happen. So it doesn't really matter, you know, who lives in that nation. It doesn't really matter anything. Like, as long as the finances keep going, then everything is fine, right? So this is like one of the, like, this is why you can't really discuss with left-leaning people on policy, because if you don't agree even on the principle, like, what's the point? Right? So like, how should I even put this? It's kind of like if you try to interpret a map and there's another guy, you know, there's no point in discussing where Argentina is as long as you don't even agree where north is, right? Like, if you don't even agree at which point of the map is north, in fact, the other person may even believe that there is no such thing as a north, it's a social construct. So, like, how can you have any conversation from that point forward? What's the end game? Okay, well, we read the super chat. Right, so, like, what happened in France? This is very interesting, and it's also kind of similar to what happened in the United States. Apparently, I saw the video. It was a teenager which was stopped by the cops during a traffic stop, and he didn't listen to the cops, even though he had the gun pointed at him. He just accelerated. So the cop shot him. Now, while I'm watching the video, and I did talk with other people that know the law in France, it seems that the cop is guilty. Like, that there was no justification for the cop to open fire within that situation. Because the person wasn't a danger for himself. It wasn't a danger for society, you know. It does look as if chances are the cop got startled when the car accelerated, or maybe the guy made a sudden gesture. I don't know, but I do agree with the fact that it was illegal for the cop to act in this way. However, what I do notice is that when you go on Twitter, and this is what many French people are saying, that they're talking about the fact that France is a racist country. And they're just asserting it as fact, but it is not true. You cannot tell me that a nation which allowed 10%, which has like 10% of Muslims, because they opened their borders, and they're allowing immigrants to come in, and they're allowing asylum seekers, and they give them welfare, and they give them a place to stay, and put a roof over the top of their heads. You cannot tell me that that nation is racist. Like, if that nation was racist, the immigrants themselves wouldn't go there. Like, you wouldn't go to a place in order to be oppressed now, would you? Right? So, like, what? It doesn't make any sense. Right? So, this is the narrative that the media is going. France is racist, and this is what's happening. A lot of communists are saying that it's good. Right? Like, this is what you get on social media. What they don't say, however, and this is like the conversation that they don't want to have, is that the kid in question was a drug dealer. So this is what I found. Like, he was selling, buying, and using drugs. It was just one of the things that he was doing. So, an important question should be, why is a 17-year-old a drug lord or a drug dealer, right? Who was he buying from? He was definitely selling, within his own community. Drugs, as far as I know, ruin lives, right? So he was selling in his own community. Who he was buying from, like all of these things, did you not think like this context should matter? Like, why is a 17-year-old dealing drugs? Is that not a problem? Now, if you're going to say that France is racist in order to provide context for what happened, sure. But can we not also point out that it's not okay? Like how did the authorities not manage to prevent the drugs getting into France? Were they aware of it? Were they incapable of stopping it? Right? And these are some interesting questions. Another important aspect is the fact that during the protests, I see people with assault rifles. We're talking about France. It's not the United States. Like, having fully automatic weapons in France is unthinkable. At least it used to be. Now, apparently, not so much. I saw a couple of youths stealing a police car and driving it while firing their weapons. That's on Twitter. I mean, why are the authorities allowing for weapons to be smuggled into France? How did they get there? Where did they get them from? Were the authorities aware? Did they not want to stop it? Like, we live in a world where everything you say on social media is being monitored. Right? Like, Discord, for example, keeps logs of what people say. Specifically in order to fight this evil threat. And you also have the government, ordering Twitter to take down hate speech and all that type of shit. So how is it possible that with all of this monitoring and with all of this invasion into our privacy, a country like France has fully automatic weapons smuggled in it? Is this not a reasonable question to have? Like, is it not okay to ask? I am aware where the drugs are coming from. My question is, why aren't the authorities stopping them? Is it corruption? Are they paid to look the other way? Is it incompetence? They do not know how? Interesting how Elon is clamping down Twitter now. Yeah, so apparently he claims like there are some corporations that are trying to scrap Twitter off data. I have no idea whether it is true or not, but Twitter is working very poorly right now. Especially on, like people in France are saying that they can't post on Twitter, but that's not true. It's not people in France, it's myself as well. It says that due to the rate, something that I've been rated, like your account has been placed under some rating system. Oh, sorry, you are rate limited. Please wait a few moments and then try again. Yeah. So I can't use, and this is just one of my accounts. Like the other account seems to be working fine. Which is good because it means that people can't report me now. But yeah. I did post another controversial take. It got 3 million views again. People are accusing me of trying to promote my game. And I'm like, yeah, bingo. But like, take into account that I can't control what people are doing, right? So when I post something on Twitter, it's not up to me how people respond. And if I say that I prefer beautiful women in video games, and that tweet gets 4 million views with people raging at me and attacking me, there's nothing I can do. Like, I didn't get them to attack me. I didn't do nothing. I literally didn't do nothing. I don't deserve this shit. Twitter just stopped using it incognito mode where you could see blocked tweets. Yeah, they say it's because of the company scrapping it aggressively. I don't know what's happening. I don't really trust Elon Musk, to be honest. He is a salesman. I mean, I do trust that You know, like he wanted to buy Twitter and shit. But like other than that, Elon Musk will say a lot of lies, not necessarily lies, but like corporate lies, you know, like marketing lies. Like if he has a bicycle, he will try to sell it to you as a motorcycle. Because he's a salesman. It's literally what a CEO does. I don't think it shocks anyone when you point this out. Doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad man or anything. It's just that he's a business person. And that's how he does business. He exaggerates. Trading in the United States. Rest in peace, Twitter, the World Economic Forum, and rate limit exceeded. Ah, okay. So it's not just France, yeah. No, it's all over Twitter. Like, there's a lot of lag, basically, and it's very difficult to use it right now. Who cares about Twitter? I care about Twitter. I just wanted to promote my game there, and I'm disappointed that it doesn't work. Promote your game. The Twitter analysts don't have jobs. He didn't get that rich by always doing good. It's not good or evil. It's like, look, if you're going to rent your apartment, right, you're not going to just invite people as the apartment is right now. You're going to clean up the place, and you're going to pretend that the neighbors are a lot more better than they are. Right? You're not going to talk about how the neighbor bangs at 4 a.m. in the morning. You're not going to talk about how water is leaking if you leave the bathtub open for too long. You know, it's kind of like that. Will you be in the Archcast today? Yes. Start a Kickstarter. I have a subscribe star. I don't want to start a Kickstarter because I don't know how much money I will need, and I don't want to end up getting more than I need or less than I need and then not be able to deliver. I have a subscribe star where I provide weekly updates, so I hope that people are going to be fine with it. From what I discussed with many people, they are saying that my project is moving very, very good because they work with other projects and things were a lot slower. So they have hopes in what I'm doing. I don't think I will control the gaming industry in 5 years. But yeah, and I don't think like I'm going to have an ESG update. God. If you are using Twitter to promote yourself, good for you. Yes. I'm much better than Anita. I don't know. I think I am though, because like her tweets didn't get 4 million views. Like she, even I think like when she was writing pieces for The Guardian, they didn't get 4 million views. So technically, yes, I'm a little bit more influential than her in that regards. I definitely beat her now though. In traffic. Like she when she tweets like actually let me see, does she even still tweet? Okay, feminist frequency. She's got 500,000 followers, and when she tweets she's getting 11 likes. Yeah. Oh, she's against AI. Let's see. We need to somehow change the language to imply that we won't use AI in any department or on any show we work on. I strongly believe in the fight we in right now. Our industry is a microcosm of a larger crisis. She doesn't like AI. Yeah. I definitely have more traffic than her. Like she posts something. Oh my god, look at this. Oh, okay, so what is she doing now? I'm really curious. So Feminist Frequency Radio is diving into the macho hierarchy with an episode of Macho Fully Loaded that's all about the alphas. What makes these machos reign supreme? It is domination, power, or just living your life a quarter mile at a time? I would say is the fact. Okay, so first of all, these individuals aren't to be emulated, Anita, right? Like they aren't role models. They're not idols. If you're talking about Fast and Furious, like these are actual individuals that you don't want your son to end up as. Like I don't want my son to end up doing illegal street racing, Anita, right? So it is what it is. The second thing is that if you're talking about their body, it's because they have peak human physique, which causes a intrinsic biological attraction. Like we are attracted to other human beings that are at peak physique, right? We're not attracted to the extremes, though. Like a person that's sick, a person that's morbidly obese. I know you're not allowed to say, but at the same time, also people that are walking skeletons aren't attractive, right? So like the extremes of I guess like the way bodies that are unhealthy look like are not attractive. Like people don't choose what they're attracted in. It's like it happens. So you look at someone that's morbidly obese, it's very likely that you won't find them attractive, just like if you look at someone that's a walking skeleton. But if you see someone that's fit, then you are attracted. The problem is not many people are fit because it's very difficult to be fit. You need an entire lifestyle adjustment to be fit. Right? You need to exercise, you need to eat certain diets. It's not the genes. Like a lot of people will lie to you and they will say, oh, well, it's the... No. Like very few people actually have the genes. Most people that are fit do work out. And not to mention like these actors, like The Rock, he works out a lot before a movie. And you have actors that actually tell you, it's like, okay, so before this movie, I had to put this much effort, and it was very difficult, and blah, blah, blah. Well, we hope for the best. The manga is coming along well, and currently in the planning stages of the game. Scare money, don't make money. Yeah, so American Outlier is making a fighting game. It's a very daunting task. I would have advised him to start with a simpler game, but... it is his dream. Like, he wants to do it. So I wish him the best of luck. And I will help him as much as I can with the resources that I can provide. Which aren't that many. But at least connections is definitely something that I can do. So if the man wants to make a fighting game, I hope that he will fulfill his dream. I will help him with the crowdfunding as well. So yeah. Going back to Anita Sarkeesian though, like no one cares. Like apparently she has a Patreon still. I'm really curious, like how much does she make on Patreon? I know that she was in a scandal with some of her staff over not paying them, like the trans people that worked for her didn't get paid. She's making okay, yeah. So I can see why she keeps tweeting, though only 2 people look at her. She's making $2,000 a month. That's decent, right? I mean, $2,000 for just talking on the internet. That she's making a lot more than I'm making on Subscribestar. So unlock this post by becoming a patron. Join. Do you remember when she actually asked like 20 grand to open a Discord? That was like a really nice and interesting take. 20 grand to open a Discord. Now, at the time, people were saying, well, a Discord is free. But, like some of the moderators, they do care about, getting paid. You know, the idea that all Jaddies do it for free depends. But, yeah. Anyway, I gotta go on the Archcast. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you want to catch more of me, I will be on the Archcast. Thank you for the donations. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys later. Take care.